Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining on the session. We'll give everyone a few seconds to trickle in here. Hopefully you enjoyed that last trivia break. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Really excited for this session. In this session, we're going to be talking about governance and data architectures, how modern data strategies are evolving in the age of AI. And we have a couple of great speakers presenting on for this session with a lot of real-world expertise when it comes to implementing data architectures across teams of different sizes and scales. So excited to introduce our speakers. We'll start with Michael Doctoroff, who's the Senior Director of Delivery for Data and Analytics at Argonaut. Thanks for joining us, Michael. I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Thank you, Arun, and very happy to be here. As Arun said, I'm a Senior Director of Delivery for Data and Analytics at Argonaut. Argonaut is a global business and technology consulting firm dedicated to helping companies modernize, transform, and operate more efficiently through digital innovation. And I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We also have Rahul Pahuja on this session. CDA's very own Rahul. I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience, Rahul.
Thanks, Arun. Good to see you, Michael. Rahul Pahuja with CDA. I'm our field CTO. We've got over 20 years experience leading large-scale technology implementations across a variety of industries in the Fortune 500 space. So looking forward to the discussion here with Arun and Michael.
Thank you, Rahul. Really excited for this conversation. In terms of the agenda for this session, we're going to start off by talking about data architecture and looking at the landscape at a high level, some of the different methodologies that are part of your data architecture toolkit. And we're going to be comparing different integration patterns, specifically when it comes to ETL with a data warehouse as compared to a live semantic layer approach. And we're going to talk about some of the trade-offs between these approaches. We'll then hit on data quality and governance, which are key elements of ensuring that you have you're getting the most value out of your data. And then we'll look ahead to see what are some of the key trends that Rahul and Michael are seeing in terms of data architecture in the future. So we'll start off with, I'll take this question to Michael. You've worked with several enterprises modernizing their data strategies. What are some of the most common architectural pain points that you see as companies are trying to prepare for this AI-driven analytics era?
Sure. So most of the clients that we deal with right now still, and even enterprise level clients, still have a very low data maturity. They still struggle with the fundamentals and are just not ready for advanced AI. We also see a lot of siloed data. Data is isolated between functional groups across the organization. And this is why Argonaut usually comes in to help consolidate and create one source of the truth for these types of organizations. And then finally, a lack of a solid architectural foundation has been a real bottleneck with a bunch of our clients that we've experienced in the last 2 to 3 years. And as of recent, a lot of Argonaut's engagements have started with a data strategy or an assessment where we actually run workshops anywhere from a 4 to an 8 week process with an organization. We try and determine their needs, align on KPI definitions across functional groups, and create an architecture that matches organizational needs. So those are a couple of the examples that we have been running into.
Yeah. Rahul, how does that map onto your experience working with CData customers regarding the main architectural pain points that you see companies facing?
Yeah, so I think that's fairly aligned with my observations in terms of the data maturity and the complexity of the data sprawl across different systems. And like Michael mentioned, there's definitely silos across different functional groups or different business applications serving those functional groups. So that's where the advantage comes in when you pull in CData's products, because I think you can get around some of those complexities, and you don't necessarily need to go through a whole modernization exercise to kind of design the perfect architecture.
So when enterprises think about a modern data architecture, the terms data fabric, data mesh, medallion architecture often get thrown around. From your perspectives, how should organizations kind of cut through the noise when it comes to these approaches and decide which approach is the best fit for their analytics needs? We'll start with you, Michael. Can you share some examples of these architectural approaches that you've implemented for clients and how their needs influence the architecture that you chose?
Sure. So, that data fabric or data warehouse has been what I've seen most in my career. But as we move towards an AI technology world, data mesh is becoming extremely important as well. And what we're seeing is a hybrid approach. A lot of organizations are still going to run the data fabric, which is, the standard ETL, ELT processes, bringing consistency to their data across their enterprises. But now data mesh is very popular and is giving, decentralized ownership and quick access to data. So we're seeing that combination in a hybrid approach. And then obviously, we do a lot of Databricks work and the medallion architecture and the Unity catalog of Databricks, where you get the raw and then the refined and then the curated data. That bronze, silver, gold set of data is really becoming super important as people are moving into the AI and machine learning area, where your data really has to be governed nicely, and that medallion architecture plays a big role in that.
Yeah, I want to hear from your perspective, Rahul, especially when it comes to the idea of decentralized ownership and the concept of a data mesh. How do you see this? How do you see organizations putting this into practice and kind of the benefits of this more decentralized approach to data service?
Yeah, so I think the benefits, like Michael mentioned, democratizing access to data. You're allowing the business to self-serve and build for themselves. So you're driving enterprise agility, business function agility, and you get the semantics and context in place. So all of those are big wins for the business, in my opinion.
Is there an example, Michael, of an Argano client where you've seen this kind of hybrid approach that you described between data fabric and data mesh?
Yeah, so an example that we recently had was where there was some accounting and revenue type data in the data fabric of the organization. However, what we did was we reversed ETL data outside of the data warehouse, the centralized data warehouse, and we used that to drive analytics and machine learning for specific areas within the organization that were only specifically looking to take that accounting and revenue data and do their functional reporting there. So it's again, back to what I said earlier, where it's a hybrid approach, where the data warehouse is now feeding as an orchestrator to a data mesh environment at that organization.
Yeah, that's an interesting hybrid, having your data warehouse drive analytics, but also having domain ownership where your data warehouse is used for reverse ETL into the underlying business systems. I think it's a good example of how an organization might have both of those principles in play as part of their architecture. I think that's a good segue into the idea of ETL and comparing it against live access. I think data warehouses have remained kind of the dominant pattern with customers kind of pulling in their data via ETL into a central data store. But more and more, we're seeing organizations experiment with live semantic layers. So since most organizations will likely have a mix of both of these approaches, Rahul, what kind of use cases do you see as being better suited for a semantic layer as compared to a traditional data warehouse?
Yeah, so I think the most common use cases are when you have to go through federated queries and go cross-source with your queries and stitch together large complex data sets, such as implementing a customer 360 for various forms of analysis across your sales organization or marketing or customer success if you're a software company. So in those scenarios, you need context, you need lineage, you're going across sources. And as Michael mentioned earlier, trying to implement replication and pipelines for this kind of a scenario where you really need live access to that data isn't really the best fit. So I see a lot of such use cases where data mesh and the semantic layer serve is a better architectural fit.
That makes sense. So, Michael, you've spoken about the importance of data quality and governance when it comes to effective analytics. What are some examples of governance or data quality missteps that you've seen, and how could those have been avoided in the design phase of the architecture?
Sure. So, a couple that come to mind are missing data lineage, right? So one of our clients had ingested data from multiple ERP systems, but they never tracked the data lineage. So analysts basically couldn't explain or understand where certain numbers came from, which led to a lot of mistrust in the reporting. So if that had been moved up to the business analysis and the design phases, where you did a better data lineage of where the source system was feeding the warehouse, things would have been a lot easier to understand where the problems were. The other thing that we see a lot of is inconsistent data definitions. Finance team is defining revenue as maybe invoiced amounts, and sales is considering it as booked amounts, causing conflicts and basically, again, mistrust in the reporting. So if those things can get moved up earlier into the process when you're going through your design and your business analysis phase, that would be very helpful long-term for your data warehouse. And then final one that I've run into quite often is also, non-governed data access, where you've given access to everyone, blanket access, and then next thing you know, you have people seeing PII or financial data that they shouldn't have access to. And then, later on down the line, you get some audit situations where you have a major compliance gap. So those are a couple that we've run into.
I think it's a key point around making sure that definitions are aligned across teams in the very design phase to ensure that you have the right quality of data and consistent access across teams. So I think that's a really important point. Rahul, I want to get your perspective on this as well. What are some examples of governance or data quality missteps that you've seen in working with CData customers, and how could those have been avoided?
Yeah, I think pretty consistent with Michael's observations of giving carte blanche to all the users in certain scenarios, and then also just I think governance is something that you have to do by design rather than do it as an afterthought. So I would say pretty consistent with Michael's experiences and observations over there.
Okay, so I would like to move on to talking from both of your field experience. Michael, we'll start with you. Can you share a story where a company made a small but important change in their architecture that helped them uncover big wins when it came to analytics and AI?
Sure. So we had a company The only thing they used was their sales data to sell additional. Can't really say what the company is, but they trying to sell their products to distributors. So each year they would look at previous historical sales data, and maybe with a little safety stock upticks, they would send the distributor just a little bit more than they did last year. However, what we helped them do was grab some market research data in that field, and we ended up taking that market research data, overlaying it in a machine learning model with their actual sales data out of their SAP environment. And we built some pretty cool machine learning models that allowed them to, down to the zip code level, understand the lost market opportunity. So that was a big win for us by grabbing some market research data and ingesting it into a lake house that we had built for them, also overlaying their SAP sales data and driving some machine learning for them to understand we sell 500 units at this zip code, but realizing that you have a possibility of really selling 20,000 units into that zip code by adding that market research data.
Got it. That seems like a really impactful addition, having market data that's overlaid on top of your internal sales data to produce that kind of white space analysis. Do you have a similar example, Rahul, of where multiple data sources can be blended together to produce this type of novel insight?
Yeah, absolutely. So my example is more from the software industry, which is actually pretty applicable to us as well here at CData. But we had this customer that had built more of a financial data warehouse with all the financial data. And then they were getting into a major customer success initiative to build an AI agent to detect customer churn and determine risk to renewals. So now they had to consolidate across various sources of data. So understand the CRM aspect, contractual aspect, when are customer contracts coming up for renewal. They had to look into the customer service cases, look into engineering tickets tied to those specific products within each customer's contracts, and then also look at marketing and survey data. So they enhanced their architecture by leveraging the data warehouse that the financial team had built out for financial reporting, but then building a semantic layer on top to bring in real-time data from the CRM, their marketing system, and their customer service platform, along with the Jira, which was their engineering team's platform. So they were able to stitch together this customer sentiment and churn view for their AI agent. So pretty innovative use case and very applicable to where the industry is moving.
I think those are both great examples that really show how a semantic layer can help blend together multiple data sources to produce insights that are not possible with just a single data source. So those are both really good examples of this. I want to kind of look ahead and get your perspective on what are some of the emerging trends or shifts in data architecture that you see gaining relevance over the next 3 to 5 years. Michael, we'll start with you. What are some of the trends or shifts that you see taking place in the landscape?
Yeah, I'll go back to everything being AI driven at this point. So for years and years, data architectures were built specifically for business intelligence reporting. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, and maybe even sooner, platforms are going to start to be designed from the ground up to handle machine learning and large language models. Everybody's going this way, so I believe that would be a great start, is to get your data architecture ready for machine learning and large language models earlier, not doing it as an afterthought. And as Rahul has spoken about with the semantic layer, using AI augmented semantic layers, which will replace static catalogs with more dynamic metadata layers that, be able to interpret the natural languages. So those are the two that I definitely see coming.
That's a great insight. How about from your perspective, Rahul? What are some of the emerging trends that in data architecture that you see gaining traction in the near future?
Yeah, so what I see out there currently is talk to your data or conversational analytics as one of the biggest trends, and then agentic AI. And in order to serve those use cases, I'm starting to see the importance of a semantic layer, because context really matters. And raw data sitting in a warehouse, which lacks all the context, doesn't really fit very well to serve the talk to your data use cases. So going across sources with live data access to those sources, having context in place, and then creating cross-source queries and derived views with the appropriate governance model required is critical to serve those conversational analytics use cases. So that is a key trend that I see. I absolutely can see architectures evolve past the data warehouse into a more hybrid approach of providing a data mesh via semantic layers.
Yeah, I think your point around context being key, especially when it comes to conversational analytics and agentic AI use cases. I think that's been a theme that we're hearing across sessions and in our keynote as well. And I think that's a point that will definitely resonate for companies that are just implementing and in the process of implementing conversational analytics and agentic AI use cases. So thank you for the insights there. And thank you all so much for joining. That is all the time that we have for this session. I want to thank our great speakers as well. Thank you, Michael and Rahul. And we'll see you on the next session.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.